A copy of this, Ty?
Steve, did you get notification?
No, it was on.
Hello. Welcome to the CAPC workshop. It's December 19, 2024, 4 p.m. here at the Eureka Springs Auditorium. I'm Steve Holifield. I guess we should go ahead and do roll call. Bradley, you want to do that?
David Avanzino.
Here.
Heather Wilson.
Here.
Colin Polk. Here. Bradley Tate Green's present. Steve Holyfield.
Here.
Shira Faust is not present.
I don't know
And
where
Robert
Shira
Smith's
is.
not present.
I've not heard from Shira, so I assume she'll be here. Robert is out of town.
He should be online.
It will be for the meeting, not for the workshop. So this is a workshop, and the number one item for the workshop's auditorium renovation, City of Eureka Springs loan repayment. Okay. Open discussion. Anybody wants to jump in?
I did confirm there's no interest and there's no prepayment penalty, so if we decide not to pay it, we would be making interest on that money in the bank that we're waiting to pay. So the balance due to the city right now is $132,252.75.
132 what?
$132,252.75. That's 3 more payments.
3 more payments. So what do y'all think? Of course, we can't make a decision. This is just a workshop. Just
How have we been paying that bill? Monthly?
No.
It's annual.
Oh, sorry.
We pay
sorry.
$44,000 annually.
Hold on, Mike.
We need to get the audio set so that everybody here can hear. Ron, we can't hear in our own little space here.
The monitors.
Monitor.
Ooh, that's better.
We're just talking to our mics more directly.
There it is.
There it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so anybody?
There.
Act like you love
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Eat the mic.
So anybody have any opinion about it? So there's no interest on this loan. We got 3 more payments left. It's
$44,084.25 a payment.
right? My question was, why are we carrying a loan when we have money in the bank? Is there a reason to carry it? Is there a reason to get rid of it? I guess the only advantage is that we can draw interest on the money as we pay it out. So, of course, again, this is a workshop. We can't make any decisions. Anybody else have any opinions or suggestions?
Just have a question. How much money are we accruing in interest on what the payment would be? So 130 grand?
It's 8% right now.
8%.
What does that equal? What did we make last month on that?
Let's see.
Would the interest that we make by not paying it, does it offset the interest that we would have to pay?
There's no
we
interest
pay it
on the loan that we pay.
No interest.
No interest.
So we should let the bank ride.
Okay. All right, any more discussion about that? Moving on, budget 2025, the big one. I assume this is you, Ty?
Well, and except for number 5, they all kind of really go together because they're all elements of the budget. So you should have a printout of our latest rendition. What this includes is actuals from January through November, the 2024 amended budget, and then the 2025 proposed budget. And I added a column for the change from the original proposed budget that we first started talking about. So we've made changes as we've been working on it and talking. So I wanted to make sure that we saw what the original proposed budget was and compared to what the changes are since then. So, and then there's a description of the things that are included in each of those accounts. There's 3 pages, and we shot for a balanced budget. So we've increased the income to help cover that. So right now, we need to discuss what we think our income is going to be next year, if we think we can make this number. It's a bit of an increase. The amended budget for 2024 is lower because that was missing 1 month. So it's not, so the difference in the amended budget and the proposed budget isn't as big as it looks like. So I think if we had the extra month, we'd be pushing probably 1.9 to 2 million. And so the proposed budget for 25 is 2.294. So in order to balance the budget and try to get as many of the things as we wanted to include in our program for next year, that's what we came up with the number. So that needs discussed on whether we can hit that number or if you think it needs adjusted. The other big item to discuss, I think, because the biggest part of the budget is the Madden media, obviously. And so that's the biggest part of the discussion. So we can go line by line or however you want to proceed.
So I see Mr. Dudley's here from Parks. The amount that he's requesting, that we could talk about, would that affect, that of course will affect the budget.
If you want to take it out of the budget or if you want to use reserves or however you want to handle that. If it's going to be in the budget, yeah, it'll have to be a part of this discussion.
Yeah. Like I said before, I like some of the things that we finance every year to be a line item instead of come up every couple times a year or 3 or 4 times a year asking for more and more money. So we could just have it a line item, saves a lot of time and trouble. So, but we need to know how much and how much we want to talk about and improve for each of these kind of things. And I always said Parks, something with the arts and the museum. Was there something else?
Well, on the bottom, the last page of page 3 of 3 of the budget worksheet, there's an intergovernment support for Parks and Rec, which we paid $51,250 in 2024. We took it out of the budget. It's not included. So we would have to, if you want it to be part of the budget, we'd have to add that back. But there is a line item for it.
$51,250?
Yes, that was paid in 2024.
What's the code, the 4-digit code?
7,000. Very last item.
Yeah, it'd be page 3 at the very bottom.
There's a line item for the museum already too, right? Because we give them $600 a month.
Correct. That is the first page, 5008.
$7,200.
Yes.
We've not heard from them requesting any additional or anything like that.
We got a report from Jeff today. Basically, it's static. They would like the same amount of money if they can. Of course, historically, we've done that. He has indicated their 2 big events, Voices of the Silent City and the Jailbird event, were very good, and they want to continue with those in 2025. But also, because they are acting as a visitor center, they would like to receive the same amount of money if they can.
It is 600
Yes.
even?
Right. Now, what they've been doing, obviously, is they've been requesting market support funds for individual events, hence Voices of the Silent City, and then this new event this past year, which was the Jailbird event. However, those are sort of, I don't know how you differentiate them between a visitor's guide, which is what they are as a museum, versus just events that occur. So they probably both deserve the event status, though they are under the same umbrella of the Historical Museum. So,
Mr. Schmidt is trying to join us via Zoom. So
Ty, do you think it best, like with the museum and parks, for, I don't know if this is the right word, but in the budget, put like a grant amount, we'll just throw out $50,000, and then any special events, keep those separate so that we can track special events. And, you know, the museum might decide to have 4. They might want to come to us 4 times next year. And if we budget just the 50, and they've got 4 events going on, then we're already above the 50. So I think it would be wise, at least in my opinion, to keep them separate.
Right. Well, like the Parks was requesting money for the maps, and so that's not an event. And so that would be considered a line item, I would think. I agree with you that the events need to be separate.
Okay.
So that'd be harder to track I mean, you can't track that separately, even if you put it in one lump sum?
You could, if that's the way you want to go.
Because it's $7,200, that's just the $600 a month.
Right.
So anything else they want, they'll have to come to us with hat in hand, form filled out, question it.
I guess my question is, how do we, like, for instance, the jailbird ball, I don't know if we have any numbers about what was brought in as far as overnight lodging and all that kind of stuff.
Not yet. No, we're typically on those things, we're still a couple of months in arrears before those types of stats tend to show up. Similar to city sales tax, we really don't know. We'll have that at some point, but that's such a finite event, it's not going to track very much anyway.
Yeah.
So we really don't have a big idea. Now, we know how much they brought in based upon their reporting, but on the same token, does it break down how much went into lodging and food and so forth? Not right now.
Because I'm trying to figure out how we would give them, we'll say Parks, $50,000, and that's their budget for the year. But then Parks decides to throw an extra event in there, and we didn't anticipate that event. They didn't.
Right.
So keeping it separate to me makes a lot of sense. Keep what we
Except
know
that
we're
we
going to.
can't, it's hard for us to budget, but we have to budget
Correct.
for how much money we can give people.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, it kind of hurts us to say, well, we have to come up with a chunk of money to make sure we have in the pot for them to come ask for it again, instead of asking for it up front, or at least coming up with kind of a reasonable number. They can always come and ask for more if they underestimate and stuff. Of course, if they overestimate, they don't get the money. We
Right.
just roll it over. But to me, it's like we're constantly adding money back to that pot because, again, we need more and more people come to us with hat in hand asking for more money. So I thought it makes more financial sense to me up front at the beginning of the year to try to hit a number that says, let's put this in a line item, and then they can ask for it. And then we don't have to constantly be moving money around and shifting money,
Okay, now I see your point.
Yeah.
Do we have like a wish amount from these people?
That's what I wanted them to bring to us, a wish amount. What's the lump sum? And I'm sure that's why Mr. Dudley's here, to give us that wish amount sum. $1 million. That's all? Would you like to step up to the mic and tell us?
And sharks with laser beams attached to their heads. No. Sorry.
Is your mic on? I can.
Check. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yes. So I think Mike and I have talked before about it, and I know it sounds like it is a big number. It doesn't sound like a big number. It is a big number. But when you think about Jamborica, historically, it's been a three-way share between the city, CAPC, and Parks for the fireworks. Then you talk about the trail maps, and then you start talking about some of the bigger infrastructure. And we're hoping some of those bigger infrastructure things won't, obviously they're long-term repairs, so they don't probably need to come out every year. But for this year, we're facing a big one, or we're going to try to address a big one, which is Basin Park. So we're thinking $100,000 would be kind of like a pot that we could draw from. And if we don't use it all, then obviously it can roll over. And we would present receipts for each thing that we bought. So throughout the year, if we buy 20,000 trail maps, we'll send Mike and Danielle the receipt. It'll come out of that line item. And then Jamborica, the fireworks, I'm already trying to wrap up that one, pretty soon. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. Because Friday, July 4th, July 4th will be on a Friday. So we're trying to wrap up that contract soon so that we get that date locked in, but it's pretty expensive. It's $21,000 for the fireworks show. So that's a big one. And I hope, in the 2025, you guys also are, it worked out well with y'all taking care of the music because you guys have the connections.
I think one of the things that Sam and I did talk about, and it is a reference to Basin Spring Park, this is a big infrastructure demand. And obviously, if you've kind of kept up with what's going on with the park, the fountain is sinking. It is going down. And that's a substantial amount of infrastructure repair and work and construction that would have to occur. Ultimately, it would be hopefully a one-time expense, but I think you almost have to separate that type of a project away from, for instance, a Jamboree or a 4th of July thing. It's not so much for the entertainment of people, it's really more along the lines of preserving what's there and also creating a safe area that doesn't preclude itself from possibly falling apart and damaging and creating a real problem or really a mild disaster. So, looking at it from the standpoint of this is brick and mortar versus an event, and that may be the differentiation. And at the top of my thought process a while ago in visiting with Sam about that, it wasn't so much a line item, it was really more of an idea that would come out of reserves just because of the amount of money that's necessary to go ahead and take care of that project. And I know that I'd seen one of your initial estimates of about $140,000 basically to get underneath there, to shore that back up and do the repairs necessary. So it's a big project, and it would take some time to do it. And then obviously closing down the park for a while, because during that type of construction process, we're talking about literally subterranean work.
Yeah, we would probably be able to keep a small portion maybe behind the Doughboy statue open for flow of traffic, but other than that, it would probably all have to be closed off. But we're going to try to, the dream is to have it done sometime in January and February. And then by the time spring break rolls around, it's like, we have it done, we can wrap it all up, we're ready for the busy season. Obviously, things don't always go to plan, so if it doesn't work out that way, we might have to push it back till next year, but I'm just tired of looking at it, to be honest. It's
How long has that fountain been there?
the fountain, 80 years, 90 years, 100 years. I mean,
So it's not original to the park?
well, the park itself used to be at ground level, and then it got raised
Yes.
up. Yeah. So, I mean, the fountain is obviously, and the fountain itself is also not original. It's a replica. The original one broke, and we had to replace it some time ago. But
And we're looking, you said 140,000 for repair of just the fountain?
well, it's not so much the fountain; it's digging underneath
Right.
it and then shoring it, and then recreating what's going on up there. So it's a big. It will take.
And how many
weeks.
times in the past 80 years has that fountain and the support structure been repaired?
0, as far as I know.
Okay.
So.
Because what's running through my head is that we know that underneath that park, we know we have issues underneath that park. So I'm trying to establish, I guess, is that a historical landmark to Eureka Springs? Does it have to work in order to bring people to the park? Can we just
Make it different.
kind of, sort of, yeah. I mean, do we have to have an operational fountain, or can it be moved to a different area and with a plaque that says whatever, congratulations on 80 years?
That also makes me think, what's the difference in the cost to do whatever makes the entire park functional versus the Band-Aid repair to the fountain?
Well, I mean, if we remove the fountain, the sinking is still there.
I know, but
Yeah.
I guess what I'm asking is, let's say that we remove the fountain
Yeah.
and we just fix what's there, which makes a
You'll have
greater
to talk to
footprint.
HDC on that one. Whew, I don't want to.
I know, I'm just throwing it out there. If HCC wants to give us money to help fix it, then let's go. But is to remove it, fix it, and we create a greater footprint for guests.
Yeah,
at the
and
park.
part of the plan would be to recreate it in a way that makes a little more sense, clean it up a little bit. For example, there's that concrete grate behind it. We'd like to get rid of that, clean up the utilities so that it's just easier to access the water and electric, and just make it more functional for flow of traffic and for people. But if we're going to do anything as far as relocating the fountain or getting rid of it altogether, would be a can of worms that I'm not sure I would want to open. personally.
Well, I'm just curious with the existing substructure, and we all know what it is, are we going to be spending this money every 5-10 years?
I don't think so, because it's never been repaired before, and I'm hoping the repair they put on it this time will be, I say they as some theoretical contractor, but the repair that gets done will be pretty permanent. I mean, we're talking 25, 30, 40 years.
The observation underneath there's the tunnel that actually runs underneath there. And, we're talking about massive chunks of limestone that are blocks that are going to be built up. Those are there now, but like anything else, they have sunk and deteriorated. The rest of Eureka Springs and lots of streets have done. The one thing that would probably be different than anything else in this case, and we've talked about this, is the repair of the fountain, but perhaps the movement of the doughboy to a different location, just because of opening up some of that space. And that could be a possibility as well.
That could happen. That could be part. I mean, it would still be in the park, but
Right.
just somewhere that's not right there in the middle.
Did you say the movement of the fountain? I'm sorry, I couldn't
Well,
understand.
the repair of the fountain itself, but the doughboy is right in front of the fountain, and moving the doughboy to
That's what I couldn't
maybe
hear.
on top of the time capsule, I don't know. So.
And even the grate, there's a grate that's, between the doughboy and the fountain itself that has the circular railing around it. It just kind of like sort of inhibits the flow, of the traffic. We could even look at removing that. I mean, that's not like a real valuable structure. So just
Don't they-
cleaning it up a little bit.
Don't they use that in the tour to talk about all the crystal powers that come out of the earth?
Can't ignore that.
That's
I mean,
true.
I'm just curious about the value of the crystal powers. I mean,
Crystals are,
there's something there.
Well, it goes back to the two things, though. One is when we take a look at events such as you go back to the Historical Museum, Voices of the Silent City and so forth, these individual events have tended to come out of market support funds. And we have taken even the printing of maps out of market support funds at one time or the other. It would make more sense, and that's why I think the intergovernmental line item was created, was to go ahead and kind of take care of that, if you will, here's a pool of money, draw from it, as opposed to just coming back every time you need something that is done.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, I think this is such a different thing than market support funds. This raises the level of, again, I go back to brick and mortar and what's essential basically for the preservation of a historic idea, but also very much a tourism element. Basin Park is one of our most respected and well-known tourism destinations in Eureka Springs, and will continue to be used so as such. So I see there's two differences here that we need to look at.
Has anybody looked into grants? It is a historical landmark. There should be some sort of grant
one
program
issue
out
with
there.
grants for that particular, historical preservation would be that we'd have to, I think it was researched a while ago, but according to the mayor, he said they were hesitant because they'd have to grant the state an easement for the whole facade of the park. Meaning if we ever wanted to do anything, we'd have to go through the sate.
And they'd have to have,
And it'd be just like,
it'd create an easement for the state.
yeah, it'd be a huge headache to get anything done. So it would kind of just take away our autonomy to control the look of the park. Like, for example, if we were going to paint the band shell like we did, I would have had to go through the whole state process. So that's kind of why they didn't do that. This was years ago.
Who with Parks researched that grant process? Was it you or somebody else?
No, it was.
I would suggest.
I got the information from Butch, who I think was there when that was researched, but.
Okay, I would suggest looking at it again because, as far as I know, when someone is issued a grant, you don't have to give a right-of-way or easement or anything because of that grant, unless it's very specific. If it's
Well, for
roadway
historical preservation, you do, because they want to make sure that if they're giving you money, it's going to stay looking that way for.
But are they going to look at the fountain, which would not be covered under historical preservation? Because it's not that's just part of.
yeah, I
You
see
see
what
what I'm
you're
saying?
saying.
It's actually the ground that's part of the historical landmark, not the fountain.
It's true. I'd have to look more into it, yeah. It's a good question.
Because if they can pay half of it or 75%, that'd
Yeah.
That's what grants are for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm looking into one for the bathhouse out at Lake Leatherwood because that's a little bit more like an obvious one because it's, it's a building. You can easily identify the boundaries of that building. So, and there's nothing below the ground that needs to be addressed. It's just the building itself. So it's an interesting one, yeah, but.
Robert, can you hear us, Robert?
Yep, I'm following. Hello, everybody.
All right, so make sure you're connected with us.
Yeah, finally.
So for budget reasons right now, what are we looking at? If we want to change anything in the budget, the proposed budget? You suggested?
Well, I suggested a number, but it was based off, the Basin Park repairs also coming out of that.
Okay.
So if that's going to be a separate thing coming out of reserves, I'd say more like 25,000 would be awesome. That'd take care of maps, that'd take care of Jamborica, the funding of the fireworks.
How much?
25. So for maps and fireworks and.
We have already budgeted $51,250.
Well, that was last year. We didn't budget it this year.
Okay.
We weren't sure what we were doing, so.
I mean, if you want to give us more, if you want to give us 51,000, we'll.
So you want to cut that in half, do you?
No.
Well, we actually do have 7,500 in
Right.
budget for fireworks right
Yeah,
now.
just
Okay.
not,
Oh,
we
okay.
have,
Oh, so that's already in there. Okay.
Yeah. You've already got black.
I mean, if the really, I mean, if the I'm sure you have a line item for printed materials. If that includes trail maps, then really we're good. I mean, we can readdress, pulling out from reserves for the big projects later, but.
What do y'all think?
I mean,
Now's the
I
time.
think a look at a grant would be worth it. I mean, they can pay for any percent of the project. If it's going to be $150,000,
So
it's worth
a
looking
quick
into.
question, so the CAPC would have to pay the whole bill?
No, we try to make it a three-way between the city, CAPC, and parks. So if we're each taking on a third of it, that'd be pretty affordable for each of us, I think.
So we
Based
would
off
pay like a
projected.
third of that bill.
What's that?
We would pay about a third of that bill.
Yeah, we'd be paying about.
Yeah,
a third.
one third, one third, one third
Yeah.
ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that the entire city 54 years ago yesterday was put on the National Register of Historic Places, and that includes Basin Park. Whether or not the fountain existed in 1970 within the park is a question, because if it did, then that is part of the National Register of Historic Places listing. So that's an important fact for us to find out. I think it's proactive to earmark budget while pursuing grant money so that it's there just in case, if it's needed, if a grant doesn't come through. But if we don't have to use it, we don't use it.
Well, we're talking about no budget, but pulling it out of the reserve fund. So the budget wouldn't fall under the budget at all.
Yeah. So that's
What-
a separate issue.
What will happen?
Go ahead,
sorry.
Robert.
What will happen if we don't get that money together? What's the future of that area if we don't invest?
I mean, I'm not a structural engineer, but it doesn't look good. I mean, eventually it will probably give way to a more serious issue. I'm not trying to ring the alarm bells, but it's been 25 years since McClellan Engineering told us you should fix it.
And just this year.
So it's not
It's-
going to
it's
get
thinking-
any cheaper. That's the fact.
Yeah.
So some point, somebody has to invest some money, either way, the city or CAPC or parks or all together. So, I mean, it's like you said, everybody said, it's a landmark. It's a very important gathering place for a lot of our visitors. And I think we probably should find a way to get this repaired. I mean, this is I remember this is talking for 10 years probably that, we need to repair it. We will repair it. And as far as I've seen, it's only patches were done, not really something substantial.
By patches, you mean bricks.
Right,
Bricks put in, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, if you can get the other, I mean, your part and the city's part to pay, I think we should really consider it and find money to
Okay,
pay our third and continue the discussion about it.
yeah.
Sam, have you talked to a company about fixing it yet?
What's that?
Have you talked to someone about fixing it? Is that how you got your?
Well, I have an
149?
RFP out right now in the
You do?
paper and on our website for prospective contractors to step in and give us a plan for fixing it, and including a basic cost estimate. So that's due December 30th. When I get that, if I do get one, I'll forward it to you guys, and then we can talk to greater detail then. We'll know more.
Okay.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and I think it would be wise if Parks and HDC got together and started looking for grants, because personally, I don't see an issue with issuing an easement to the Historical Society. We do it in city council all the time. We take roads away and all that kind of stuff, but, so I don't understand why that's such a big deal. But y'all may want to
This
look
was
into
15,
it.
20 years ago, so yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what.
I would look at it again, and shoot for the stars, ask for 500,000, see what happens.
Yeah.
Is there any perspective for fixing the park as a whole as a larger project than just dealing with just the
Well, we just
fountain?
got that $75,000 from the Banks Family Foundation, so that's going to be planting trees, fixing the upper terrace, stairs, stuff like that. So yeah, we're picking away at it.
But is it only I guess, the park under the fountain that's sinking currently, or is that a problem?
Yeah, it's just under the fountain.
Okay, so the whole park
The whole
not
park is
having
on
the same
is on
structure.
a limestone bluff, so it's fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
good,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
When's the last?
Unless there's a monster earthquake, and then yeah.
An alternate version would be if we tried to find a sponsor, right?
What's that?
If we would try to find a sponsor, I'm just thinking,
Sponsor.
what if we
fundraiser.
have the Walmart Foundation and ask them if they would help us sponsor part of it?
Ooh, well,
Walmart?
I don't know how.
Or the
That's one of
Waltons?
those. Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have to put signs up that said Basin Park brought to you by Walmart, I mean, I think
Yeah.
it'd probably be okay.
I
But
think,
Hopefully not,
again, though,
yeah.
that would probably fall under, likely, that would fall more under grant monies and things if the Walmart Foundation has a grant for repairs
Yes.
or something. That might be similar to what David was recommending with checking into grants.
that's more the
'Cause they'll
Walton
have
Family
those-
Foundation.
They would have those
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
monies earmarked for certain community projects, I would think.
Okay. Well, I think we'll know more after the 30th, and then I can come back, hopefully, if you'll have me back, or I'll get with Mike. And
I have
I
one
can
more,
just present it to
one more
Mike.
question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
You said there was somebody that looked at it that was 25 years ago. Has anybody looked at the?
That was McClellan Engineering, yeah.
Has anybody
It
looked
was
at it
about
since?
20 years, 25 years.
So, I mean, we might have somebody look at it now.
We had a more recent study done, didn't we? Didn't I see a big plan, a whole thing redone and stuff at one time?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
it was-
remember seeing the artist renderings, which were very nice.
Who was your,
Yeah.
your stonemason that looked at it?
That'd be Stacy Mahurin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stacy Stoneworks. So,
Oh, so somebody did look at it recently?
yeah. yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's a couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I just meant physically put eyes on it who
Stacy.
has an idea of what's going on, so.
Mason,
Stacy,
Rockworks.
yeah.
Stoneworks, yeah.
Stonework.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so back to the budget. Right now, we have zero
good?
money
Oh,
budgeted
yeah.
for parks.
But you have the Jamboree Fund, and if the printed materials, if the trail maps could be included in that, that'd be great. And that's really all we need.
What's
at
your
the
map
moment.
number? What are you thinking there? The
10,000 would be great, because that would just give us one big order. We could take care of it,
And that's
order them
a-
all at once, and then we might not even need any for the whole year. It might just be one-time order, so we're not coming back to you guys constantly.
So we're going to eliminate government support for Parks and Rec altogether and just make sure we have money like in the printing and money into the fireworks and,
Yeah, we've got the fireworks there now, so we'll just have to figure out how to get that 10,000 in there.
okay? Is that cool with everybody?
I guess, would it be possible, just while I'm here, so we the fireworks are one thing, but we also end up paying quite a bit for, the activities out there. Would it be okay if we budgeted like, let's say 10 for the fireworks? And that way it ends up being a little bit more, it kind of helps us take care of like the foam pit and the kids' games and stuff like that and those sorts of expenses.
I have no problem with this.
Okay.
I have no problem with this.
I mean, it's,
I think
I
we've
will
got a
say
blank
Jamborica
check
is,
somewhere around
it's
here we could find.
it's one of those,
It was huge. It's going to be on.
one day I will be able to enjoy it. I'll just say it that much. It's very stressful. So
Do you want to say
any
that
kind
we're
of
going to do
financial help would
Holiday
be great.
Island fireworks on Thursday this year?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm still jealous.
Well, that would be with no band. Okay?
What's that?
No band.
Yeah.
So are we breaking these budget items into specific things like Jamborica, $20,000?
Hey,
fountain
I said
repair?
10. I said 10. You don't have to, I mean,
What?
you can make it 20, but I said 10 for Jamborica.
Where did the 20,
It's 50-24 special events,
okay.
and then it's 50-75 is specifically fireworks. So it's broken up.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at 5075 is fireworks. We have $7,500 allocated for at that point.
And last year's show was 21,000 for the fireworks.
That's
so,
what I was
mean,
hearing. Okay.
Yeah. So
And you're requesting we change the 7,500 to 10,000?
just to help us with like the activities and stuff that we book. And,
I mean,
yeah.
I know what fireworks cost, so that's $10,000 for fireworks is just a blink, so yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think we need to add to it or rename it those. If we put just fireworks, he can't turn in receipts for other stuff.
Well, I could, use, I could just say CAPC will pay for 10,000 for the fireworks, and then that will help us.
And
That way, we're not paying as much for the fireworks, and we can put the rest towards other
miscellaneous.
stuff. I mean, you can change your budget if you want, but yeah.
I just don't want us to say, well, we can't pay that because it's not.
Oh,
fireworks.
yeah, I got you.
With- It's under special events. We could rename it to Jamborica instead of labeling it
Yeah,
fireworks.
just
Yeah.
rename it to that.
Yeah,
That's
that makes more
fine.
sense. I just don't want us,
Yeah.
I don't want you to be shortchanged when we said we can't pay that because it's
Oh, okay.
fireworks.
Yeah, technicalities.
Is that possible? We can do that, right?
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
bookkeeping,
We just have to add another
Yeah.
line item, that's all.
Well, I mean, change the name of fireworks to Jamborica.
just Jamboree,
That way, it cover- yeah, it'd be all
Covers the whole
encompassing
event
for
instead
that
of just
event.
fireworks.
Yeah.
And then what is the maps?
10,000.
The maps would be at the last line item, but we'd have to put that budget to 10,000. We'd just have to figure out where it comes from.
Which in this case would go down to 7,000, and it's going to be what's under that intergovernmental.
Yeah.
Right there. Okay, so there goes. So line item number 7,000 is going to go to
10,000.
$10,000.
Are you including passing papers?
Well, we don't own them, so, but
But there's a move.
There's a move to what? Danielle, what'd you say?
Trying to get all of the trails that are off Magnetic Road included in that trail maps guide, and not just the trails,
so the passion play trails, like, have all those on one map. The issue with that is it's private property, so like, it can't be funneled
Yeah.
through
Yeah,
us.
they need to do their
That'd
own
kind of
thing.
put liability on the city for anything that happened if we're telling people that they can go there and,
Yeah.
that's what they're trying to figure it out.
yeah, it sounds like a legal issue.
They're trying to figure it out. There's been a lot of requests.
I mean, we'll just acquire the property and then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I told Kent that several times, like, just give us an easement for the trails. And
Yeah, I'm sure you want more
We'll take
property to
care of
take
them.
care of, right?
Well, I mean, if I get the rubber stamp passion play, yeah, I mean, the trails, that is.
That's fine.
Okay, is that it for parks? Any other questions, concerns, issues, comments?
When's your next workshop, or whatever?
Next month?
We'll let you know.
Like I said, I'll know more after the 30th, so I'll know more after the 30th about, hopefully, I might not. but
January
hopefully I will.
12th.
Okay. Maybe we can,
Or, no, January 8th.
Hold on. It is the 8th.
8th.
as soon as I know, I'll get with Mike and forward him all the information, and then hopefully I can
Yeah.
talk to you guys again. So,
It would be January the 8th. Right.
okay, January.
Happy belated birthday.
Cool.
And then the meeting would be the 22nd.
No, that changed.
Yesterday.
Oh,
Happy birthday.
We've got to get to him.
It's your birthday?
Thank you.
Yes, yesterday, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Belated.
What's that?
Happy belated.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I got to spend my birthday Christmas shopping for other people because I'm so generous.
Again, it's for the kids.
Yes.
Just give them a free
Oh, no,
trail map.
Grandma takes care of.
Just give them a trail map.
Yeah, there you go. Here's
What time is the workshop on the 8th?
You call it. It would either, 4 o'clock would be 4 o'clock,
Okay,
4 o'clock the 8th.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank
Whatever you do.
you. Merry Christmas to you.
Sam.
Mr. Henderson, I assume you have something to tell us since you're
Line
here.
item 6005,
Yeah.
last page.
This would be line item number 6005,
On page 3.
proposed contract with the Chamber to mail a visitor's guide.
Yeah, and so basically, we are hoping to get a line item in the budget for us to be able to mail the Eureka Springs Visitors Guide. We mail 20,000 copies of, we print 50,000 total, so we'll mail 20,000 copies of those straight to the Arkansas Welcome Center warehouse. They'll store those for us, and they'll distribute them to each Arkansas Welcome Center as they need them. So they keep those welcome centers full with Eureka Springs Visitors Guides. From what I hear, it's the #1 requested guide at those that I've spoken with. 10,000 of the copies we keep locally that we distribute here amongst local businesses. Our Welcome Center, we distribute them. Transit Welcome Center distributes them heavily. The CAPC hands them out and often brings them when they go to different shows. Now, there's another roughly 10,000 that we mail individually to requesters. Every single visitor guide that we mail out is requested. So we don't send any of them out preemptively or just to send them out. These are all people that specifically request the guide. And what we're asking for is just a line item for postage. We used to have an agreement as such that went through about 2018, and that just kind of went away. And so for, 16 years or something, I'd have to look back. The CAPC used the chamber in a contract for service manner for visitor services. We also back the visitor guide with our chamber visitor center, and it's also got an information hotline in it that the guests use to call to get visitor information. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell as far as why I'm here. Does anybody have any questions for me regarding that?
The original contract, which was signed back in 2008, was a 10-year contract.
10.
And it basically provided for the fulfillment of the guides based upon the printing company that was sending them out at the time via UPS. The problem that we ran into back in the day, and I don't think you were here, Devin, you may not have been, but you may have been, was the date of the request generally didn't get fulfilled within sometimes 3 to 4 months.
Sure.
And that was frustrating for the people on the other end, and it was frustrating for us. And we relished the day that the contract was over because we were the ones getting the telephone call complaints. I think we had put down an approximate idea of about $20,000 to do that for the year based upon a 1-year agreement. That would give you the latitude to be able to go ahead and send out guides, again, based upon the necessity to get them out on fulfillment on request. And that would give you the latitude to go ahead and move forward.
Yeah.
That's at least what Ty and I had gone over and looked at the books and determined it's the potential for that. I think the concern that the commission probably has, and we've talked about this before, is how you doing? How's it going with the guide right now? Are you in production?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Our sales cycle wrapped up on December 15th. We do have a contracted saleswoman that's got a couple of stragglers that she's working on, but I started the design already this week. we plan on having it in hand March 1st. Is the plan right now. So it'll go to the printer February 1st. And we should have it in hand by March 1st is the plan right now.
David?
Yeah, two things. One is, for me personally, to honor this contract and do what we need to do, that visitor's guide needs to come out in January, to me. And I think that the chamber should probably be planning like 2026's visitor's guide now, instead of waiting till December to get all your sales and all that kind of stuff done. It just makes more sense to me that if I'm going to pick up a visitor's guide, it should at least include January, February, March. There's a lot of things that go on in those 3 months that will not be able to be in the visitor's guide.
I understand, and it's something that I hope to do as well with the organization. We need to get a much earlier start on it. This is the first year that I've had a contracted sales agent to help me, and so we're already working with her to plan for next year's guide. So she's already working with contacts, to set things up to get this process moving earlier. Now, right now, what we do is the guide's not dated, and so we don't date the cover of the guide. And so we send anybody who requests a guide in January, February, and March, we'll get the guide that we have currently. January 1st is definitely doable. It's just like you said, we've got to make that a plan and a priority. And if that's something that, the CAPC would like to see, we're open to it. It got to where there wasn't a partnership anymore, and so as an organization, we just had to do what worked best for us at the time, and so that's just how that schedule fell. But we're open to a partnership, which I'm well aware means that there's going to be terms that have to be met, and I'm open to doing all of that.
Okay.
Robert?
Yeah, I am very disappointed, and I'm with David. I mean, the visitor guide has an event calendar in it, and it repeats some events happening in January and February, thinking about Mardi Gras and stuff like that. And when the visitor guide is in the hand by March 1st, which is we had the same situation for 2024, and it was April, I think, before we really had the printed version in hand. So I talked to Devin about it. I am sure he remembers that a visitor guide should be available by the beginning of the year, and not when a third of the year or a quarter of the year almost is over. That's very disappointing to hear.
Understood. Yeah, and I will say, for a long time, and especially as long as that partnership and contract was in place, January 1st was the deadline, and we can definitely get back to that, for 2026. But I'm for one just grateful that the door's open and that we're communicating for a partnership, because, the visitor's guide. It's a very important tool, and as the guy who answers the phone calls and fulfills the request, people use them. They really do use them, and those that are in it get great exposure out of it, and it's a powerful tool for the city, and there's really no other alternative at the moment to send people.
I want to go on record. I was berated at the city council meeting 2 meetings ago, pointed out by one of the city council members stating that we cannot pay for the guide because it's against our bylaws. So all we're doing here is talking about postage, right?
That's it. Yeah, we're not.
Support, not paying for it.
No, we're not asking for help printing. We're not asking for you guys to help us sell it. We're not asking. All we're asking for is that you guys fund the actual postage of us fulfilling the request for the guides, which, the bulk of the postage is we're sending them to the Arkansas Welcome Centers. The local AAAs call and get them from us, other local chambers and local welcome centers. So it keeps Eureka Springs represented in all of these places. And, it's one of those that print still has a place. I'm one in particular I'm not even 40 years old, and I prefer a printed guide myself. I may look at but we've got the online guide too. So it's represented in both places, and we do try to push visitors to the online guide. But there's one reason that we really want the visitors also to request the guide in person from us, and that's the leads. So, another part of this partnership is the leads that come from these guides. So anybody, yeah.
I actually have a question for Mike. I'll let you.
Sorry.
Hold up, Robert. Robert has his hand up again.
Yeah, right. Well, sorry about that. What's controversial from Devin is he's saying the guide is a very important instrument for advertising and everything, but then yet it's still coming out by March. So, I don't think the chamber is putting enough effort into really making it on time. I have a little bit of an issue with that. I mean, if it's that much, or if so important, then it should be ready by January and not by March.
Well,
I've been approached, I think it was September, for advertising into the new Visit the Guide. And then, you got away with the guide or with the grid listing, which, okay, that's your decision. You want to sell more ads, that's another thing. But it started quite early, and I thought, well, we're on track, and everything will fall in place, and we will have an early print. But now hearing that it will be March, it's just very, very, very disappointing.
I completely understand, Robert, and I hear you. One thing that I will say is that, we've had early conversations with Mike as well, and it's no surprise that we planned on bringing the guide out in March this year. That was right within the timeline. And again, with an open partnership, we can change multiple things. That being one. But like I said, as it was, there was no partnership, and that was the deadline that my board of directors put in place for me to have the guide in hand. And so, like I said, I'm happy to meet terms and do what we have to do to get a partnership back in place. And I hear one of those things being the timing in January. And so, I hear you loud and clear, but I also don't want anybody thinking that. So right now, another part of the visitor's guide and it being annual in print is that events, as you guys know in Eureka Springs, how often they change. We just saw what happened with Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue. The events change, and so to put these events in print anymore was a bad idea. And so we don't put the events in print anymore. What we do is we have a page. Right now it's a half page that's dedicated to, that's got a QR code on it that takes you right to the event calendar online so they can see the events in real time. It's working in somewhat of a hybrid manner in that though people pick up the print guide and use it, they all still have the cell phone in their hand and the websites on it as well. So we found that that's the best way with the calendar of events. And so they're not, somebody who gets a guide next month, they're not going to see that they wouldn't know the difference, to be quite honest with you, at this point.
Heather?
I would like Paul to go.
Okay.
Are all chamber members included in that publication?
No.
No.
So I was approached to buy into the ad as well, and as somebody who didn't pay for it, it's just kind of like if you pay into it, you get a bigger boost, which is something that would be nice to know before, as you guys are selling. But what is the budget for 2025 for the Chamber of Commerce? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, I'm going to say about 200,000.
Okay.
I was approached multiple times on this topic. So Mike, if you would, Article 7, Section 4 says prohibited use of CAPC taxes shall not be used for general subsidy of any civic groups or the Chamber of Commerce. Could you just explain how postage is not considered general subsidy?
Well, I think what you do is that also refers to the fact that the Arkansas legislature indicated that you can provide contractual services for a specific. In this case, you could provide contractual services for postage, and that's the way you define that. And I think that the confusion for one of our city council people was that he felt like we were probably trying to create a partnership, which in fact is not true. You can't partner with the Chamber of Commerce. CABCs can't do that because we're tax collectors and a tax collection agency, but you can do that. I think the one thing I would say is Devin is the messenger. So don't beat up on the messenger too much. I think it really goes back a little further to the Chamber of Commerce as a whole and perhaps the institution that we see that may be in a rebuilding process. I don't know exactly. I don't know all the ins and outs of what goes on. But I know Devin works pretty hard at what he does. And I think that he is behind the 8 ball in many instances with the organization, trying to do what he can. The Visitor's Guide is an important tool. It is really a phenomenon that we need as an organization because it's something that people do look at. They do pick it up. They do read it. I think the relevance of it today, though, is important to see how it will progress as you go through the process. It's well that you are wise to the idea that you can't be real accurate about every event because things like BB&Q do change, which is unfortunate. But on the same token, I think that you've got the online guide, which does help, and that obviously is going to be the thing that goes out, and you want to get eyes on the prize, so to speak. What I would think, though, is that we do, I think, need that partnership, at least as a vehicle to get the guide out. I do think it's important that people can request the guide and get it. We don't have a partnership. I use the word partnership in a bad way, but at least from a contractual standpoint, I think it's a necessary item that we look at.
Thank you.
I mean, we have only 2 options technically, I guess.
I'm sorry?
And can you hear me now?
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi is maybe not the best.
He's kind of frozen.
Yeah.
Robert, are you there? Oh, maybe he'll pop back.
Good old Cox Internet.
One thing, if we were going to partner, I would like to see if it is the general funds that the CAPC taxpayers pay, then there should be, it shouldn't just be the people who pay to be in the publication that get to benefit from everyone's tax dollars. That's my roadblock to the whole thing. So if there was a page listing all of the members, I mean, obviously they didn't pay for a quarter-page advertising, but their name to be somewhere in it, I mean, that'd make me feel better at least.
Sure.
I mean, as in chamber members.
Chamber members, yeah.
I think,
Well,
oh, sorry.
So, I'm sorry, Sharon, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I just was going to say, so what you're proposing is like, for example, this year, I know that they're removing kind of the grid listing, but sort of a similar thing where anybody who's a chamber member would be represented in some sort of print of some sort, just not the extra add-on of an advertisement.
Just an idea, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so one thing that we do have currently in the guide that, that at least right now I have in the plan to continue on is we've got for collectors, right? We've got a lodging directory and we've got a dining directory. And so whether somebody purchased an ad or a grid listing or anything like that in the visitor's guide, if you've got lodging or you've got a restaurant, you've got a listing that's got your restaurant name, lodging name, and phone number, kind of what category you're going to be in. We've got it for lodging. It's broken down B&B, hotel, motel, et cetera. For restaurants, it's just in alphabetical order, but I was talking with my sales lady about this year, cleaning that up a little bit and maybe doing it kind of location specific. So all of the of the tax collectors are represented in the book. I do hear what you're saying about membership too, Colin, and that putting a page of chamber members in there is something that I'm also considering and trying to work into the publication. But as far as with tax money being used to pay for the postage, those that are collecting the taxes are represented in the book, and I plan on keeping those directories in there.
Robert, I think Robert's back now.
Well, I think we're at the point that I think we talked about that before. Either way, we keep supporting in some way. And a postage, I remember when I was a CAPC commissioner before, that paying for the postage was a legal way to not infringe our laws. And that's what we did. The other way is really we have to find a way and say, well, do we have to produce the visitor guide by the CAPC at some point to cover a better space? Or, I mean, the CAPC didn't have the personnel to actually produce the visitor guide for some time. But maybe this is something, I know the chamber probably wouldn't like to hear that, but if the CAPC would reclaim the production of the visitor guide, but that is another step if we can find a way to support the chamber with the postage payment.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions for Devin? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
thank you, guys.
Hope
Have
you
a
don't
good-
feel too beat up.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
You too, Deb.
Merry Christmas.
Hourly staff transition salary, do we want to talk about that?
Yes. We had gone back in and taken a look, literally at the federal guidelines for what are called employee exempt status. That is to raise the level of employee pay to the point where they really don't qualify for overtime. One of the difficult things we've run into this past year and perhaps even earlier was we don't know how much overtime to compute. So what has happened in 2024 is we have gotten extremely busy. We've had to put in a lot of hours, and we can't accurately budget for overtime. The answer to that is one of two things. You completely eliminate overtime and just don't get the job done, or you raise the level of the salary up to a point where it becomes employee exempt where there is no overtime at all. We found a way that we could go ahead and do that, and that's basically boosting the salary level to, I believe it's 62,000. I think that's the number.
That is correct.
Okay, the number is 62,000 across the board. That way, we know what the number is throughout the year, and there is no overtime at that point. Now, is that good or bad? Well, it's good for the organization. It may not be so good for the employee, but on the same token, we've got to figure out a way to maybe, relax the employee time. If they have to work 50 hours one week, maybe there's a way we can offset that with a day off or something like that, a mental health day, those types of things. But that would put basically a single number into our admin budget for salaries for the year by going to that status.
Heather?
Oh, this conversation has been coming up a lot lately. I am very much for transitioning the team to salary. I do feel that these base salaries, even with insurance, retirement, MetLife, tax, are still a little below average for the Northwest Arkansas market. That is where I come in with bringing up the bonuses again, which we didn't cover in the November meeting because I wanted to make sure all commissioners were here. I have a presentation. I don't want to manipulate all of our time, but I would like to really think about it in one of two ways. The first way is we can say it's a flat percent. We always know what it will be. It's predictable based on the team's salary. Another way we can do it is let's just have a flat percentage based on the income for the year. So if we bring in $2 million, it's X percent, and we divide it accordingly. I'm not necessarily married to either way, except if we bring in less and we don't perform like we thought we would, and we have budget in place for X percent for bonuses, we may kind of get ourselves into some trouble there. It is something I really would like to think about. I think, to Mike's point, when the team is traveling to FAM tours, events, those are not 8-hour days. You are away from your home, your family, your dog, your loved ones, your solitude, whatever it may be. That is a lot of time, and that is one thing that we cannot give back. It's very precious, so I don't want to say that monetary compensation is equivalent, but we need to start somewhere. So it's a conversation I'd like to continue. I think that when we are thinking about the team and investment, we also need to be thinking about, yes, the market, but we need to be thinking about retention. And if we lose one of these teammates, how hard it would be to replace them, on top of the fact that according to SHRM, and I'm happy to share the link, it costs 90 to 200% of a person's salary to replace them if they resign. So these are all things that I think we should be proactive about. I'm interested in what the rest of the commission thinks, and I wholeheartedly agree we should also be thinking about mental health days and how to make sure that the team is set up for success going forward.
I agree.
Robert, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, well, I need a little bit of an input here. Who is paid who, or which way? I know Mike, he's the on top. That's a fixed salary, and then and I think Ty has he's paid by the hour. That's the last thing I know. How are the other people paid? I mean, I don't have that information.
I believe that they've, correct me if I'm wrong, said that everybody else is hourly, that Mike is the only salary exempt employee. And I agree with you, Heather, because I do think in the long run, I think making all of these folks that are vital, that are spending many extra hours beyond a standard 40-hour hourly work week, salary is actually more cost effective than to factor in days off and benefits packages, whatever that may include, be it personal days, sick days, things like that. It's much more cost effective than it is to have it be an arbitrary amount that's up to whatever is going on. It seems to make more sense.
Yeah. I believe that this is a no-brainer.
Yeah,
We just
I think
need
so
to.
too.
And I trust Mike's recommendations. If he thinks this is how it should work, you're there more than we are. And remind everybody, we can't make a decision about this at this. We can during the meeting. So.
I have a question, and just ideas running through my head, but it seems like most of this comes up from overtime. Correct? This is most of what this conversation is for, is because everyone's at events, they're traveling, they're putting in overtime, and we're not able to budget for that overtime.
Well, it's two things. It is overtime, but it is also, I think, based upon advancement, in addition to just the hours that are put into it. I think everybody here is at a level that is a little undervalued based upon the rest of the market. I know what basically Northwest Arkansas does with their A&Ps and CVBs. We're low in terms of our salary. But on the same token, we're also in Eureka Springs, and we understand that market equivalency is a little different than downtown Bentonville or even downtown Rogers. But where we stand right now is, a good example is last week, there was an average of probably over 40 hours extra time put in the course of 1 week, just because of travel time and the time we were, on the ground in conference. So I think that we see that periodically, and the other part of that is traveling. We got 3 or 4 shows coming up that are going to require, well, let's put it this way. I didn't take a day off for 8 days or 9 days, and I think the staff was in the same position. So, we're working straight through, and that's all the time.
Okay.
Now, nobody complains about it, though, I'll tell you that, which is a good thing.
Well, I believe our last meeting, we talked about adding another person to the staff, and there was the conversation that wasn't necessary. But whenever I have a business and I see that people are putting in all this overtime to get things done, I feel like hiring somebody to help offload some of that overtime is smart. Like, we don't have anybody who just works on events. If we had somebody who just worked the events, and that would take a lot of time off of Danielle and Caitlin.
My only question about your thoughts there are that to me it seems that it falls down more under what the scope of the position is, because that does make a lot of sense when you have somebody who's performing a job, which would be, I think, more described as the same day-to-day tasks that fit under sort of like, say you're a wait staff person or a customer service agent or something. You do the same tasks sort of, and they fall. You don't think outside the box, where I believe these folks that are working as CAPC employees right now are actually thinking outside the box. Their job evolves. It has different standards as to what falls day to day, which tends to be more of a salary worker type position. So
yeah, and I don't disagree with any of that, and I don't disagree that they're underpaid. But
Sure.
What I am raising the point about is we talked about an event position at the last meeting, and it was, well, we don't need that. We've got it all under control.
Sure.
And now we're at the next meeting, and it's, well, we need to raise everyone's pay because everyone's working overtime because there's not enough hours in the week.
See,
Those are alternating conversations.
I agree, but I think I interpreted it differently because when they were talking salary, I didn't take it as an increase in pay for any person. In fact, might actually reduce pay when you go to salary, because as opposed to paying time and a half and overtime to an employee who's maybe taking on 12 plus extra hours a week, you're actually going to reduce their pay when you take it down. What you get in turn instead is a fixed salary amount, but you get perks of days off. You get the perks of, you get advantages and disadvantages to both.
Right.
Being an hourly employee is wonderful when you get time and a half and you're that hourly employee because you're making a lot more money. The downside is you don't get freedom to have a week where it's slower. You get to go take your kids to appointments or do whatever. You work a standard 40-hour work week, and you don't get these benefits. Both have advantages and disadvantages, but you're capped as a salaried employee to the fact that you have to get the job done no matter what.
Right, and so back to Heather's point, so let's say we change everyone to salary and they're getting all this overtime that they're not getting paid for, that they're getting hours of their lives that they don't get back. A simple change to that is to hire somebody else so that we're paying them, they're getting hours of their lives where they don't have to work on planning all the Christmas events that the CAPC staff plans.
So
that's a lot of work that isn't really under any of y'all's purview, and we appreciate it. But at the same time, whenever you're over here getting 60 hours a week because we're doing all this extra stuff, it's like, let's stop calling it extra stuff and put it on the calendar and hire somebody to plan it and pull it off.
So I assume the staff, this is what they prefer to do.
That's my question.
Did you make that decision, or did everybody agree to it as a whole?
This was based upon everyone's input. Yeah,
Second part of that, is there any change in benefits if you go from hourly to salary?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, part of the issue with hiring another person is how to fit them in, because right now we're still trying to figure out our team and how to work together. And right now, I don't think we're at a really good place to plug someone else in, and what would they do?
Between events?
Plan events.
Well, my question to
Well, we
you,
kind of
Colin-
all do it,
Hold on.
though. It's kind of a
One
team
at a time,
effort. It's not a one-person thing, so.
Yeah, right, but, I mean, you're helping, but you're also the finance person. Jana's the group sales lady, but she also helps with the events. I'm not saying that one person would just come in and do it all, but if every single one in the room is working on events, but you don't have an event person, you could lighten everyone's load by hiring an event person. I mean, that just makes sense in my mind.
So
I would support that, Colin, in that point, and that event person should be hourly paid, so that it's not a full-time job, and so it can take off the peak when it's needed. That was one of the main thoughts when we discussed about adding an event planner to the staff, and that's just the part, salary. I mean, what is the wish from our employees? What would they like to see? What would they like to have?
Well, we
That's
actually
an
do have,
important-
we do have two people on our staff right now that work for us, Sarai Alshar and also Nancy Paddock. Nancy and Sarai really are kind of our utility people that do a tremendous amount of things that normally we would end up doing, like, putting up Christmas decorations and so forth. So we have them at our disposal right now. So, and we actually have an usher staff too that we can bring in to fulfill a lot of what we would call, jobs where you got to pick up something and go do it. I think that the mechanism that we have, though, is a little different in terms of its philosophical approach to how jobs are handled. Yes, anybody in our staff with our collective staff can be the person that puts the event up on the calendar. There's a lot of opportunity within our organization for us to pick up the ball and do each other's jobs, quite frankly, with the exception of him. Nobody can do his job except him. But I think what we're seeing right now is an organization that works pretty well. We are getting, so to speak, our chops, so we know how much we can do, and then what we have to go ahead and offload. And we've been able to, fortunately, have, again, Sarai, Nancy, and so forth, that we can bring in when necessary to do some of the things that otherwise do require extra time upstairs, extra time down here, and as we also call them floaters, sometimes we need a go-to person. Valerie Sawyer is one of our great people that we can call in about any time just to do a number of things, and they're basically hourly employees. But the core staff of people that come in Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, that make the mechanism work, these are the people that are also taking time and understand that sometimes you just have to work longer to get some things done and or to get ahead of the game. I can't argue the point too much more than that. I think
This
that
is
we're
something
blessed.
that's, it's not, written in stone. We could always change it in the future. We could go to mixed match. If one position decides they're better off going back to salary, we could change it back. That's not a big
True.
deal. Right now, we just need to make a decision so we can base a budget
Yeah,
on it.
I mean, I'm all for the migrating them to salary, but I also want to make sure that Heather brought up mental health, that, you're now in salary, you're going to work 80 hours a week. I want to make sure we have something in place that prevents that.
That's called a director.
Well,
Part of his job is
there
to
is
make
no
sure the
chance
staff
to
aren't burning out, so.
if there's no chance to compensate your overtime, then that's what Colin pointed out. Then it's really, there's the need for an extra person. I mean, if you overwork constantly, that gets on the person, and then eventually we need the mental health support because that person is worn out. And I mean, like, that should not be the goal. I mean, we should have a work environment that people don't really have to work 50, 60, 70 hours a week. If that's the case, then we definitely have enough hours for somebody else to step in and take over some of that load. That's my opinion.
I would assume the director would say, you worked 60 hours last week, don't come in until Wednesday.
Exactly.
If that's possible, yes.
And I
don't know.
I did that when
if
I
that-
managed staff who were.
At our last meeting, I know that some of the commissioners weren't able to attend. We didn't wholly eliminate the idea of an event planner or another staff member. We just said that we were going to table it while this new team gets their rhythm and gets processes and best practices into place and can reassess and see where that person would fit in best. I also want to say something as somebody who did events for a number of years. It is just one of those things where, not to sound blasé, you expect 16 to 18-hour days.
Yep.
You expect that because it is just part of the job. When I think of the team traveling, I have had community members say to me, oh, they're just partying. And I kind of laugh because they don't understand the sunrise to past dark. You don't see the outside of the venue until you leave. The reality of it is it comes with the territory, and it's just an expectation that I think that this staff has fielded really well. It is something that we should revisit once they've got the cadence and expectations for what that role could be. Because I agree, we don't want you working yourselves into the ground. I do have that concern, but I also think that they have a really good grasp of the reality of what's going on right now.
And there are busy times and not busy times, right? So
I'm sorry?
there's busy times and there's
Well, certainly.
less busy times.
The only request that I've had from the staff is to have desks that raise up.
Desks that raise so
they
you could stand.
Sure. We had put together a proposal earlier in the year to do that, to make life a little more comfortable in the office, and we were
I like
shut
those.
down. So I am going to request that we get to revisit that opportunity.
By the way,
I mean, we
Colin,
are talking about the budget.
I love
I
mine.
got you.
I'm a
I got you.
proponent.
Okay.
Colin,
No,
I do
no,
want to say I wasn't trying to argue with you. I don't disagree about the potential of another staff member. I was not thinking of the two as really necessarily mutually inclusive, that the two could be real separate concepts. I was just saying that I do think that the current folks that are working, it might be more financially effective, cost effective to have them be salaried employees, but I don't disagree that the consideration of another employee is a bad idea.
All right.
I mean, I like to point out, we have really an excellent staff right now, and it would be hard to lose any of them. And we should make a way or find a way that everybody feels comfortable. We, from our side, the way the salary structure is done, and on the other side, we don't want to lose anybody because of some issues, the way the workplace is organized and paid. So we need to find a balance between the two things. Absolutely.
I was going to recommend that if they go to salary, then we need to set limits for, like, time off. They need leave days, or like David said, mental health days, or maybe get their birthday or a floating holiday or something. We need to set some days for that type of stuff.
Would that not be something that would be drawn up in a
Yeah.
package for
Yeah,
everybody that
that's-
says per so many, if for each work period you accumulate X
Yeah.
amount of?
Does it have to go by the city?
Yes.
It does, okay.
Welcome your input on that, certainly. Yeah.
I didn't mean be run by them. What I meant was, the
Is there a
city has
standard?
that in place. Do we have to use the same exact one
Whatever
that
the
they
standard
use?
is for
Yeah.
the-
They're
benefits package.
technically employees of the city.
Right, okay.
Gotcha.
I know where I worked, we had comp time. You
Yeah.
build up time and then you can take that off later. Does the city of Ricky Springs have that?
They do right now.
No. All right. I think we've talked about this extensively. Moving on to rubric for an event request. I'm not sure what that is.
That's
Heather.
Heather.
That's me. So, each meeting, we get funding requests, and I made a rubric for myself, and I know that Mike has one too. I am not attached to any particular rubric, but I do believe that we need to look at funding requests with the same metric regardless of who is requesting the funding. We need to make sure that the community understands that everybody gets the same measuring stick. And also, if somebody comes in with a $5,000 request, they don't necessarily have to get $5,000. We may say, you know what? This is the first time around. We don't quite know, but $1,500 seems pretty good. But we don't have a way right now in place or a mechanism in order to do that. And so I'd like to think about this as a commission, and just from a liability perspective, if there's ever an audit, how are you measuring? How did you take a look at this funding request? A point system, whatever it is, kind of like college, you get a grading rubric. So that we're making this decision, we get these funding requests in advance. I know everyone is busy. I'm also a business owner. But if we can take a few minutes and be proactive about it and discuss.
I mean, this sounds like a workshop topic.
You know, so it was the workshop topic, and I'm happy to like say let's do this. And maybe somebody at the city. I'm going to assume somebody at the city can come in and maybe speak to this, but I just think that it would be really good for us to have in place rather than arbitrarily getting requests every week, hearing about it, and going, yeah, I agree with that, or no, I don't. It's like, well, here's what the numbers say when we actually examine it. Let's go by that. So I'm interested in what others think, and maybe this is like a deeper workshop for next month. Or
I really think this is a workshop topic. This
Yeah,
is pretty extensive.
It is extensive, and I will tell you, we were granted $19,000 by the state of Arkansas. We did submit basically a market support fund request for the New Year's Eve bash, and it was very similar to the same type of form that we use internally for the CAPC, except there was a little bit more exhaustive. I put it together. It was about a 3-pager, and we basically had to tell what we're going to give back to the state of Arkansas. Which in our requests for things, we don't say, what are you going to give back to the city? It's just like what you're going to take away. So I think it's a great workshop item, and it does deserve really some serious attention, because what happens at the end of the day is that unlike other cities, we don't give them a check. We basically say, you've got to give us the invoices back.
Danielle,
So,
don't leave us. Do we have a workshop topic for next month? Okay. Can we make it?
One thing I'd like to add real quick. When we get those funding requests, let's say there's $5,000 in it. We always discuss those funding requests, and we have a presentation, and it is up to the commission to make a motion to approve the $5,000. We also have the freedom of say, we make an motion for $3,000. Every commissioner can come up with a lower amount. It's not that we have to approve the requested amount. I mean, I remember we have done that in the past many times, that the funding request was too high, and the commission came to the conclusion that we only want to spend $3,000 or $3,500 or whatever. So we have the option still to cut down a funding request to amount we feel comfortable with.
Sure.
That makes sense, Robert. I'd like to suggest that we table this until the January meeting, if everybody doesn't mind, because I have some thoughts on this as well.
I think everybody does. So events requests and budgeting for January 8th.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
let's do that.
David and I will be at that meeting, because the vote to who will be on city council on this commission is not till the 13th. So
Right. Okay.
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
we'll be here for the January 8th
Yes.
meeting, because the vote is not till the 13th of
Yeah.
the city council. Okay? Rika Sound?
Yeah. Yes. Eureka Sound, of course, is Ron Sumner. He is our technical director and production individual that we've been working with for a very, very long period of time. And in taking a look at basically the format that we have been working with Ron on for some time is a little strange. And the reason I say that is that 95% of the equipment that is used within the city auditorium is Ron's equipment, Eureka Sound's equipment. The issue that we run into is that while we pay Ron a salary, we really don't reimburse him for any of the usage of the equipment that is there, nor the maintenance of the equipment. And we've been working back and forth. Ron and I have talked at length about, a better way to basically provide remuneration for him for both the equipment, his time, and so forth. Plus, what we, unfortunately, Ron has fallen into this trap of people in Eureka Springs tend to think that Ron does everything for nothing. And they think that basically Ron is just a guy that works for the CAPC, that whenever the CAPC needs something, then Ron is there for whatever. That's kind of an unfortunate task. It's a good one because they trust Ron. They know Ron will do a good job. He always has, and will continue to do so. But we've taken a look at how we can probably go ahead and maximize the opportunity to keep using Ron's equipment and Ron at the same time. And that's basically keeping him as a contractor. We'll go ahead and put together the formalized type of contract agreement there is, but to raise Ron back up so that we can equitably use the equipment at the same time to the level that you see here, which in this case is 61.5. That gives him.
What line item are we talking about?
This is line item number 5057 under audio contract service, 5057.
Page 3.
Yeah, it's on the third page.
So there's a budget of 47,683 for the 2024. No, 52,000, huh?
5057.
6057.
5057?
5057.
5057.
Second line on
It's on
page 3.
3.
Page
Page 3.
Oh.
Right.
Out of order. I don't like
I am here to clarify
Say
things.
hi.
And Ron is here to defend himself.
Yeah, if anybody needs any information from me, it is a contract, it's not a salary. So I spend a lot of that money on equipment maintenance and insurance, things like that, to be able to do my job. It's not just the auditorium equipment, it's Basin Park equipment, it's equipment down here, it's equipment for events down here, as well as city meetings. It's equipment for things like Leatherwood, things like that, when those things happen, sometimes all concurrently. So anyway, I'm here to answer questions if you need it. I've been kind of under the weather, so.
When you do an event for the Parks Department, do they pay you too, or is it all under?
That, the year before, the commission actually voted on Jamboree extra money. This year, it was, things were, and it was not even brought to the commission to pay extra money. So, and the year before, there was also.
So who paid you this year?
Well, I just did it.
The city paid you.
Well, I just.
It wasn't extra. He's got a monthly contract, but he did get paid extra for that.
Oh.
extra
Yeah, sometimes those things happen. I mean, like Leatherwood, that was not on the books at the beginning of the year. Well, it was, but I mean, like New Year's Eve,
So this contract is anything that happens here at the Odd? And
Yeah, a check director for anything that happens at the Odd and Basin Park, or any venue that the city has purchased talent for, or
Okay.
things like diversity in the park like that. It's not necessarily associated, but things like that come up, and
So you're not going
zombie crawl in the park, things like
to
that.
be paid by
No,
somebody
no,
else to do something? in the
Generally
park?
not for things like that, but the year before, those things were voted on. The other aspect of it is I'm the point of contact for booking it for probably 90% of the acts in the park. So that was voted on in 2023 as some extra money, but not voted on for 2024. So that's something that I did as well. So if you look at the increase from 2022 to 2023 to 2024, some of the things that were included, I just did in 2024 that were voted on as extra for 2023. So there's just some aspects. So.
Just for my clarification, there's some equipment you use here as city equipment and some is yours?
Some of it is. Some of this equipment we use upstairs. Some of the conventional lighting that we use upstairs. Sometimes for the smaller events, we'll use the installed speaker equipment. For the larger events, we use my equipment pretty much exclusively.
Do any acts bring their own sound stuff?
Yeah, it varies from act to act, but a lot of touring acts require, a turnkey operation. A lot of acts are bringing a lot of their own gear, and they require what they call stacks and racks, which are the big speakers and the amplifiers to drive them.
You have to coordinate it all.
Pardon me?
But you have to coordinate it all, make sure it works?
Yeah, I'm usually production manager for all of the events up there. So
Heather?
Ron, are you happy with a $9,500 increase? Is that
Yeah, I mean,
satisfactory?
the thing about it is it's hard to pin down because what I do is kind of diverse. It's not well-defined. A lot of it is, doing what falls through the cracks and participating with the staff on, like booking the park and things like that. So it's hard to pin down.
Does this include,
it is a unique situation.
does this include Dave?
What, pardon me?
Does this include Dave, or is he separate?
Dave, does
Dave.
this include
Dave works
No,
for
it
the city.
doesn't. Dave is paid by the city.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not paid by CAPC.
Anybody else?
What does it not include?
What-
So if, in which situation or hypothetical would we have to pay Ron more for doing extra services? Like Jamborica, for example.
That is, what I've decided to do is just include that because those things come up. I would say the way, I didn't put that in the contract worded this way, but I think the way to approach it is anything that the CAPC buys talent for, like CAPC buys talent for Jamborica, CAPC, which in the past contract would be technically outside of the contract. But if I put in the contract that it's anything the CAPC buys talent for, then that's included. Another thing would be like the Center Street event for blues. That would be technically outside previous year's contract, but
Where the line gets
Yeah.
blurred is, and blues is a good example of it, it's when a third party comes in and wants to be, part of the booking arrangement, and all of a sudden, they expect Ron to show up and do that because it's in the middle of the street, or it's at Basin Spring Park. That becomes kind of a blurred area because obviously, we want these events to be successful. On the same time, same token, we can't just go ahead and turn the keys over to somebody in Basin Spring Park and say, go for it with Ron's equipment. So, there's an issue there. I think that what has happened is what I said at sort of the preface of this thing, people just assume that Ron will do it all the time. And that really is unfair to Ron, but it's also unfair, I think, to the quality of the production too. When we were looking at Basin Spring Park and being able to go ahead and hire another independent company just to come in and do like Basin Spring Park Saturday Music Series, we'd be looking at $1,500 to $1,600 probably per production company just to do those. So here we are with about 30 of those events. So we're really racking up a lot of money with people we don't know. So,
well, some of those events don't need the full production, but the way I approach it is to do an installation for the year, just leave it up, which saves a lot of time when we're setting up equipment. And some of our higher profile stuff does need that equipment when we get 200 or 300 people, sometimes more. But, if we have solo acts for basically ambient music or duos or local acts like that, then they get the full benefit of having the installed production. So,
Ron, a quick question. Since this is a contract-based situation with the CAPC, shouldn't it be the way, not that we have to offer you more, so should you not bring us a new proposal and say, you guys, that's not enough, what I would like to have a little bit more, and so we can discuss over what's the appropriate amount what you should get. I'm not trying to short pay you in any way. We appreciate your work enormously, but it's a contractual situation, and I think
well, I
Just guess what comes
I don't know if you can still hear me, but
20 minutes until the meeting.
I think what he means is that, yeah, it's a contract, it's not a salary, and just try to include everything in, try to be fair for both parties and include in the contract what I think needs to be in the contract so that we don't have this gray area. So that's the figure that we came up with to cover, all of these events and you try to eliminate all the gray areas. So that is basically I did write a new contract and put that number. That was the number we came up with after discussions with Mike and.
So we have
So,
a proposal.
the new contract is that proposal. It's not.
Robert?
Yeah, we have a proposal of how much you would like to have for your service. Is that correct?
Yeah, services and equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the way we have to decide over it. I mean, what is the amount? Can I ask for that?
61.5.
Okay.
Okay. Colin?
I have nothing wrong with the number. I know how much work you do and appreciate you. I would like to see a contract. I know there were some issues brought up earlier this year with the former director, or the Chris, we'll just say Chris. Thank you, Chair. The former chair, about your contract. So I would like to go over it just to make sure that there's no issues with it, have a lawyer look over it, make sure everyone's right, there's no conflict of interest with authorities. But yeah, thank you for your service.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the CAPC for allowing me to do what I like to do in the town I want to live in. So back at you. And I did change some of that wording after talking to you. I changed the wording for those specific items I think that were in question. So
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Cool.
yeah.
Moving on, Madden marketing proposal, that's on our agenda for the meeting. Can we just wait and talk about it then?
Yes,
I'd like to take a break before.
yes. Yeah, we need to.
We are adjourned. Our workshop is over.
Thank you.